This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
New from Radiotopia presents Red for Revolution, an audio drama about Black love, queer romance, and liberation. Join Jasmine, an 18-year-old navigating her queer identity while learning about her grandmother's secret love affair. Through her discoveries, we're transported back to 1971 to witness two remarkable women embark on a romance that defies all conventions. Subscribe to Radiotopia Presents and listen to Red for Revolution wherever you get your podcasts.
Bless you all and good morning. MIP on 89.3. Folks, we've seen what has happened just in the past few days with some of our media figures. Who better to talk to and get things started today than with the editor at large of the 19th, but especially wearing her hat on this first day of Black History Month as the president of the National Association of Black Journalists, our dear friend and comrade, Erin Haynes. Erin, good morning. How are you?
Brother Mark, happy Black History Month. It's good to be with you at this consequential time.
Talk to us about just how consequential this is, Erin, and what, I know you released a statement. If you could, for the record, share with our audience what that statement is and where the NABJ is standing.
Yeah, listen, Mark, again, it is so fitting that we are opening the 100th anniversary of Black History Month here together. But these commemorations are coming at a moment when we know that history is not just being debated, right? It's being contested, it's being criminalized, and it's being actively erased. And so we know that Black journalists have always played a central role in documenting truth, especially when there are some that would rather try to obscure it. That is the moment that we find ourselves in now. And that's not incidental to Black history. It is foundational to it, right? This is our history connects directly to why Black History Month even had to exist in the first place, right? Literally to document what the dominant narrative has refused to record. So as far as I'm concerned, Black journalism is not a sidebar to democracy. It is really one of the most consistent accountability mechanisms really that we have. You mentioned our statement, NABJ statement, about the arrests of both Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, veteran independent journalists who were doing their jobs, committing journalism, which we know is not a crime, right? And so, what I said was that, as journalists, our first obligation is to bear witness and to inform. And so when those obligations really are met with detention or prosecution, attempts to intimidate or silence us instead of protection, we have to ask what message that is sending, right? About who gets to report and who gets silenced. Because really, and I think, Mark, why we've seen so many people standing in coalition with us, but also so many people in the public really rallying around this cause of press freedom and democracy is because this is not just about us as journalists or Black journalists as some kind of protected class. This is about the public's right to know. Because if you can silence us, if you can silence Black journalists, then who else can you silence in a democracy?
Mm-hmm. And this fundamentally undermines the very First Amendment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, yes, we have to talk about the reality that this is about the First Amendment, full stop. When the press is protected, that's not because, we don't just do that when it's agreeable. We do it because it's necessary. And covering protests, right? Especially protests involving, state power. That's a core First Amendment activity. It's not a gray area. So the First Amendment really only matters if it holds up when power is being held accountable.
That's right. So what, in terms of, there's going to be some legal response to it. Will the NABJ be inserting itself legally as well?
I can't say that we're at a point where I can speak to that. But we certainly, do not feel again that these charges are legit because again, Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, they were not participating in a protest. They were covering a protest. They were there in their capacity as journalists. We cannot say that enough. And so, trying to paint them as co-conspirators, trying to undermine their credibility as journalists, with these indictments, with these criminal charges, that cannot stand. That should not stand because it is sending a very chilling message. And so we definitely stand in opposition to that, and kind of where we go from here in the legal arena. We NABJ is thinking about, what do we need to do to make sure that journalists who maybe don't have the resources for legal protection. So many of our members, Reverend Mark, they're wondering, what's next? Could this happen to me? And if it does, if they don't have the backing of an institution, or if they don't have the resources to defend themselves against this, how are they supposed to continue to do their jobs?
Right. And honestly, Aaron, most of our members don't necessarily have big names.
No,
They can isolate and pick folks. I mean, folks,
right,
some of these are everyday journalists, everyday reporters, many of them, and they can go after any and everyone.
right.
It also puts on sort of a chilling effect, because if you
Yes,
know, you got to make a decision. So it's like there's being a journalist, and then there is being an activist. It almost makes you an activist, because you have to make a decision as a journalist whether you doing your job on a particular day is worth you risking arrest. That's a strategic decision you have to start thinking about if they're coming after people.
listen, that's exactly right. I mean, when you have journalists being singled out at protests, it does create a chilling effect. This is something that our members certainly are paying attention to. They were watching, they were alarmed, as so many of us were, at the arrest of Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. Really felt like a new phase of what we are seeing happening, especially with attacks to press freedom. Local reporters, freelancers, journalists of color are especially looking at this, and they're saying, if this can happen to them, what about me? Right. So this chilling effect, it is not something that should be of concern to just journalists. Like, it is undermining the public trust, because you're going to have fewer journalists who are able or willing to bear witness if this continues. So I mean, if journalists can be arrested first, and things get sorted out later, like that protection that we have under the First Amendment really becomes theoretical instead of real, and that's not right.
Well, and Aaron, isn't this kind of show the hypocrisy? The United States government always criticizes historically other nation states and governments for not having freedom of the press and journalistic freedom.
Absolutely. And
We
I,
cross that line now?
Yes, and I mean, I think that's why you're seeing so many people, so much public support around this issue, whether we're talking about civil rights organizations or
Right.
elected officials, or even you saw entertainers last night at the Grammys speaking out about press freedom. Like, this should alarm every American, not just journalists, because this is, I mean, when journalists get blocked or arrested, like, the public is losing independent information. Democracy is weakened by this. Like, when the press is intimidated, basically the public gets left in the dark. So we have to continue to keep the focus on, transparency, and how journalists can do their job safely. Frankly, authorities need to clarify. They need to explain clearly why these journalists were detained, and what steps are going to be taken to prevent this from happening again. Like, this is not what a free press in this country historically has looked like. This is not what we associate with what it means to have a free and healthy democracy and a free and healthy press. If arrests are going to become the cost of covering public dissent, it's democracy that's going to pay the price.
Who better to institute a Russian state-controlled media than a Russian asset? I said that, y'all. Aaron didn't. Uh, so, last question. I was just on another call with a very small group of people in Georgia Fort, and an interesting question was raised that I had not thought about in that call to her and those of us listening, whether or not we need now, under the circumstances, to develop some, for journalists, for Black journalists, if not independent and other journalists of color, whether or not we need to establish a journalist legal defense fund
Yeah.
for bail and court.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Absolutely. We have absolutely thought about that. We have had people that are already reaching out to us about that, because, look, I mean, yes, we are very glad, we are grateful that Don Lemon and Georgia Fort are no longer in federal custody. Their release is welcome, but that doesn't resolve the core issue, right? We don't know what safeguards others will be putting in place so that this doesn't happen again. But NABJ has to respond. We have to think about what steps we can take legally. There's a mental health component to this that we have to address. There's a safety issue that we have to address, so that people know that they can go out they can do their jobs, they can do them safely, and that there is an organization when these institutions don't have their back, there's an organization that does, and that is the National Association of Black Journalists.
Not only is she the president of the National Association of Black Journalists, she's still a full-time journalist herself. And I would dare say, folks, one of the ways that we do push back is support journalists, support independent journalists. Continue to read and put your eyes on it even more now, so you can be aware of what's going on, not just in terms of the stories that are shared, but in terms of the well-being of those trying to bring objective news to you and me. Right, Erin?
That's exactly right. And listen, the start of Black History Month is a perfect time for those folks who are listening out there to support the journalists who are bearing witness. Stand with us, because we stand with you every single day, trying to bring you credible information as the trusted messengers in your community. So follow credible Black journalists, share our work, defend our right to report, even when the truth is uncomfortable. The last thing I want to say, Reverend Mark, you know this, but NABJ is going to be doing a national town hall tonight. Not on Our Watch is going to be a national conversation featuring journalists, press freedom organizations, civil rights groups, independent journalists, and newsmakers. So everybody listening out there, we would love your support in making this a success. We want as many people in the room as possible for what we envision as a very vital and consequential conversation from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern tonight.
That'll be where on your YouTube and
It's going to be on NABJ's YouTube. Yes, we're live streaming on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay, wonderful. Everybody be sure to check that out. Erin Haynes, the new president of National Association, coming in brand new, dealing with just right off the break. Lord have mercy. Gonna be all right. And Erin's our leader, and a great one she is. Also, you all check out the 19th. Thank you, Erin. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand. And above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.